which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is Tuesday, December 21st. This is the Mitchell County Supervisors meeting at the Mitchell County Courthouse. Before us, we have an agenda. Are there any questions? Comments? Hearing none, do we have any motions to approve?
Move to approve.
Jim's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mike has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approve the minutes of December 14th. Hopefully everybody has read them. Is there any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the December 14th.
Mark has made a motion to approve the December 14th meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Todd has seconded. Any further discussion?
Roll call, Mark.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Moving on down the line, County Attorney General discussion. Mark, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
Do you-
The only thing I have for you is that Russ Kephardt's trial that was scheduled for the 17th was continued. That's the first part until the first part of February. That's the first time the magistrate had a half a day that he could give him. His other trial with where he has sued the county is scheduled for July. That's kind of just an update of where we are on those two cases.
Okay.
And I sent everyone a copy of that letter that the DNR sent to him. And just because they said he could get a permit doesn't mean he can get a permit. He could apply for a permit, but because of his zoning, he wouldn't qualify for one. So just because they said you could get a permit, what that really means is you can apply for one, but I don't think he could get one because he has to show proper zoning in order to get a permit.
Okay, good, thank you. I give Mark some names that will be for the second lawsuit, I believe. Hopefully you can get them over to Carl.
Yep.
And if he needs more people that will just sign an affidavit, they don't want to go to court, there's more names they can get.
Okay.
So,
So you're gonna get those names over to me and I'll get them to Carl?
okay, we can do that, Mark, we'll deliver them to you then.
Oh, I didn't text that, I thought you said you were going to. If you're just gonna deliver them to Carl, that's fine.
Yeah, I think Mark is going to email them to Carl.
Okay, Mark Hendrickson, not Mark Walk.
Correct, Mark Hendrickson.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there anything anybody has for Mark?
This is your last meeting, Mark,
This is my last meeting.
and thank you for what you've done for Mitchell County.
Yep, and I'll be around. It's not like I'm taking off and I'm not gonna be here. I'll be here to help Aaron, and I'll be here to help William, and I'll be here to answer any questions you have. It's not fair to anybody to have something going on for 2 or 3 years and then just drop out and say, hey, I'm done. And I think I explained to you what Carl's going to do. He's gonna file what's called a motion for summary judgment, which means this matter doesn't even go to trial. Because, and I explained to you before the difference between a discretionary function, and if it's a discretionary function, you have absolute immunity, which means you can't be sued on that issue. So he's saying that was a discretionary thing, we decided to do that, we can't be sued. Carl's confident that he's correct in that position. That doesn't mean the judge will agree with him, he's just confident that he's correct.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your service, Mark. Anyways, moving on. Sheriff's report and approve the sheriff's report.
Good morning, everybody. I have November fees for you. $3,423.43.
Okay. Do we have any motions to approve the sheriff's report for November?
I'll move to make that motion.
Todd has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Oh.
Mark has seconded. Any further discussion?
Roll call, Todd,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
All right, we've approved the sheriff's report. Do you have anything else for
Two
sheriff?
other quick items. We got overtime because of the storm last week. Couple of guys were called in early and some stayed late, so you see the overtime on time sheets for next pay period. That's what that is about. And then finally, thank you for what you did for my office in terms of salary increases and supporting what the board recommendations were. Not only for myself, but the deputies, and also thanks for taking care of my hourly people. It was a nice increase for them also, and that matters, so I keep them. I always said that, and I'll continue to say that, so thank you for that support for the last week. So that's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me or somebody here does. So,
Certainly, there's no other
okay.
questions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sheriff. Moving on down, department head discussion. I don't see anybody flailing their arms in here. Is there anybody out there on the internet? Hearing nothing, we'll move on down to county engineer. Rich?
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Project update, Balsam Avenue Bridge. Got some good news and some bad news, I guess. The good news is they drove some pile in the north pier. Some of the pile met bearing and some of it didn't because it needs to go deeper. But some on the same pier need to be cored yet. So there is a rock formation under there that is just weird. I think we've got a rock socket 3. We got to retap 3 of them this morning to see if we get bearing. If we don't, we got to add to the pile. So it's just a strange situation sitting there. So the bad news is we probably won't get any concrete poured before Christmas, at least if at least the back wall or the abutment on the north side won't get poured. So it's kind of a weird situation, but that's where we're at. They continue to work. Like I said, they'll be out retapping some of these pile today, and then if they get bearing on them, that'll be great. If they don't, we'll have to do a change order to weld onto them, and then the other ones we'll have to rock socket them in. So there'll be some extra work going on here just to get that other pier done. So with that, that's what we've got for construction updates. The other projects are getting closed out. The guys are out, or they have been out, picking up debris and whatever else from the storm last week. And we're not going to use that new boom truck until we get it inspected, which should be sometime here in January, I think. But they're getting everything else cleaned up and ready to go with that truck. You'll see a bill come in. We had one Mack truck rigged up to pull that mini hoe trailer, but I wanted a second truck in case we needed a second truck to pull it. So you'll see the invoice from Gordy's. We wanted a certified welder to weld that hitch on. That way, if there's any issues, we did all the other stuff running airlines and everything else, but it's a substantial cost to add that hitch to. We added it to one of the Sterlings, so we'll have that truck available also to pull that trailer. So just an FYI, when you see that bill come in, it kind of shocked me too, but it is what it is to get something done right. So lastly, I talked to Worth County's board yesterday. The engineer agreement between the two counties is up for renegotiation in July. They thought maybe sometime in January, if you guys want, however you guys want to do it, get together and have another meeting to discuss that. I just mentioned it to them. They thought, at the beginning of January, being so busy with meetings and whatnot, they thought maybe mid to late January. Just throw that in your ear. Do you guys want to talk about it or not? So just kind of.
Where are those meetings usually held at? How does that work?
it always seems like everybody met in Carpenter to have the meeting. But I really honestly don't know whether you need to, I mean, it's always been a joint meeting between the two boards. Whether you're required to have the joint meeting, I don't know, but, I mean, it makes sense to have everybody in the same room to have the discussion, so. I know, I guess that most of the time it's been at the Carpenter Bar and Grill. I remember one other time where we had it at the golf course in Manly, but that was a while ago. So I don't know if they've always tried to find a, meet in the middle somewhere, and Carpenter usually seems to be the one in the middle, so. But you guys can, I don't know, I don't know if AJ was gonna contact the chair here or not, or whatever, but just to let you guys know that that's on the docket, I guess, something to look at for review.
Okay. Yeah, normally, well, since I've been here, it was always Carpenter
Yeah,
Bar, but.
I think it's only been one other place, I think at one time they tried to go every other county, but geez, since I've been here, I only remember Carpenter and maybe the golf course one other time.
It's
So
about
not-
as easy as you can get, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's halfway.
Right, it's on the line, so.
Does that get posted that,
You have to
I
have,
think it
Rachel
does
has to
because-
be there, it's a
meeting
meeting.
at the Carpenter
It's a
Bar?
meeting.
Yeah,
It is a
it's
meeting.
Okay,
Grill. Carpenter Grill.
Okay.
okay.
We'll be in the grill.
Agree.
Suppose you'd have to contact the bar too first to make sure
Yeah,
it's okay with them.
we don't have to plan everything right now,
Yeah,
but
yeah, when it
if
gets
you
closer.
guys maybe come up with a thought on when you wanna have that meeting, it doesn't have to be a normal days meeting, it doesn't have to be a Monday meeting, but it can be, I guess, I don't know, or Tuesday, whatever. So,
Any day in which we can all
Right.
get there.
Yep, so, anyway, I just needed to bring that up so we can look into that. I don't have anything else right now. I know that, also, the state legislature, the Iowa code allows for blue flashing lights for winter work. I've had one of the guys kinda do a little research on a blue light. I think we put one in one of the trucks just to see what it would do, what it would look like. I think to retrofit all of the dump trucks right now, we're looking at maybe $1,500 for a light. And what we would do is because we can only run blue during winter snow removal, it would have to be on a separate switch, or we'd take that light out and put the other one back in, much like when we take the sanders off or anything else. It's just a matter of plug and play. So I looked into that a little bit. We'll see what the total dollars amount to, but I think the estimate was around $1,500 to put one blue light in each one of the backs of the dump trucks, so.
It's funny you mentioned that. During, a couple weeks ago, the state was out and they must have put blue
Yep.
lights on theirs, and I'm telling you.
You
that-
notice them.
Oh my, yeah, I could see that a long ways away, and I thought it was an accident or something
Yep.
because I could see it so long, and here it was a state.
Yep, they say that the visibility with the blue lights is a lot better than the orange, and everybody has orange lights now, so, I mean, it might be something we might try to, I know some counties have switched already, but we're a little bit, and we'll start with our trucks first, we'll see what that does, and then
Why can't you leave them during the summer? Is there
it's
a-
just something in the code that
In
we're
the
not
code,
allowed to
huh?
run blue lights during, because we're not, usually when it's snowing out, it's more of an emergency than any other operations we're doing in the summertime.
Okay.
Where visibility is kind of not as big of an issue as it is in the wintertime when we're plowing snow, so.
Okay.
That's just the way the code reads, that we can only do it during snow operations.
Hmm.
The engineers conference, still don't have really any good information on the funding bill that was passed, other than there's more money, but I think they've opened up, they kept a lot of our bridge money and everything like that, but they've added more categories for competitive grants, I think. We still don't have a clear definition of how much and what. What we do know is that a lot of our funding is still in the bill. We don't know how much. We saw an increase in bridge funding statewide, but whether they're gonna be competitive grants or not is yet to be determined. So, we'll just see how it all plays out. And it's gonna take 9 months yet for them to get everything going, so we won't see much of that money for a while yet. But- And once I get more information, I can pass it on along to you guys too. But right now, it's kind of, the bill's passed, it takes a while for everything to get, everything signed, it's a matter of now they gotta figure out how they wanna do everything.
Yeah.
So, the typical timeline is 9 months since signature that they get everything figured out, so. That's all I've got for you this morning.
Do you have any questions for Rich? How was the trees? Was there a lot of trees down on the road?
You know, I know we had a couple I got a couple phone calls when I was in Des Moines, but I don't know, we had some down, but I don't know how many. It didn't seem like it was too big of an issue. We'll try to get, I know that in Worth County, and I think even, I gotta remember if I gotta go through my emails yet, but I know that the disaster declaration was announced, and so we'll try to put some, I think they want to have us do overtime hours outside of normal working hours for any kind of emergency response with signage and tree debris removal and things like that. So we'll try to put something together for emergency management so they can put it in. We may not, we may not have enough damage in the counties to get reimbursed, but our totals still go toward a statewide total. In places like Rudd and stuff that really need to be funded, that helps them out if we can get that total high enough that they really want to do. I mean, Rudd's just one example of a location in the state that needs the money, so we'll put whatever we got in there. It won't be a whole lot, but we'll contribute to hopefully bring that number up to the statewide number it needed to get maybe some federal money too.
Okay. Yeah, after the storm, my neighbors called. They didn't have juice, so I was out running around the area trying to figure out why the power was out. Well, it wasn't in our locale, it was further away.
Yeah, that was
And I was surprised. There was a few trees that were on the road, but nothing you couldn't get around.
Mm-hmm. It's just amazing. We had some big power lines in Worth County, some of the big laminated post power lines down on the road for about a mile stretch.
That was them big square ones.
Pretty
They were
crazy.
supposed to be the strongest.
Well, they didn't break. I think the footings just kind of gave way with all the wind. There's a lot of weight
okay.
hanging there when that wind's blowing, so. As far as I know, I guess I didn't get the chance to go out and look at it, but,
Okay. Well,
yeah, what a mess. Who thought we'd get tornadoes in December? I guess that's better than, I don't know, would it be better than a blizzard? I don't know.
well,
Blizzard's better. Depends what power stays on.
I guess I remember plowing snow there south of Harry Mays with all the High Line poles down.
Yeah, I remember
I
there was
pushed
some.
my way through all them. That wasn't fun. but-
Tornadoes in December, that's a new one.
All right.
Well, you guys have a Merry Christmas.
You too, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll let Pat have the floor. We'll get her right in. Discussion and possible action on recorders clerk.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, good morning.
Good
How are you
morning.
guys?
Morning.
Okay, I'm here to ask, I'm sure you're all aware that I will be retiring at the end of next year. And Hannah wants to take my job. And I am hoping that you would consider allowing me to give her 30 hours a week, starting July 1st. Just need to be there to really learn the job. And at this point, I'm teaching her new things, like she's helping me with the budget, with the comp board stuff. She's just, I need to get her into everything. She's ordering supplies for me. Excuse me, and Dawn and I change jobs every 3 months, so everyone knows everything that goes on, and we do a lot of different things, so I'm just hoping you would consider allowing me to give her 10 more hours a week, basically, which would put her at a full-time 30, is that correct?
Yeah.
So, did you have any questions?
Now's the time to ask questions or speak out.
So is your term up at the end of the year?
Next year,
Next
yes.
year?
Mhm.
So she'll have to run, correct?
She will, yes,
but
yes.
That's a good, be good on her resume to have been doing it and then basically last 6 months maybe getting really in-depth with the
Right,
jobs.
right, yeah. Yeah, she just has no idea everything that goes on, and I'll show her something else, and sometimes she feels overwhelmed, and like I said, I just think you need to be there more in order to really grasp it, so. And then when you're not there all the time, sometimes you kind of, I don't want to say forget, but, maybe lose the steps or whatever that you need to do to accomplish a task, so.
probably a good idea to train somebody in ahead of time, definitely.
So is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve that.
I had a straight RH and said, I'm not right there now, I was looking up, I'm sure it's possible.
That apparently wasn't for this,
It's, I can, yeah, it's this person right there. I don't know if I can.
so are they trying to speak to us?
I know, I think they just don't have, they don't have their mic muted. Now they do.
Okay. All right, so Mike has made a motion to give,
Give her that extra 10 hours of her training.
that would put her at 30 full-time, right?
Yes.
Beginning July 1, 2022.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Roll call, Jim,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Steve,
All right,
Mark,
Right?
Todd.
Aye.
so
Awesome. Thank you so much.
hopefully it works out for you.
Yeah, she still has to win, but,
Yeah, oh yeah.
so, but at least she'll know and, hopefully can stay on and,
Yep.
That was July 1st, right? Starting July 1st.
yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
so much.
You bet.
We can do number 9, or or Milt, are you ready, or are you waiting for somebody to be part of your? If you can go before 9, well, let's do it then. I thought maybe you were waiting for somebody else
No,
to,
people are scattered, so they left it up to me.
all right, we'll let you have the floor.
You'll
We'll-
have to put up with me. Jim, if you can forward those down, I'll
Certainly.
trip over your cord there, certainly.
I think last year you had, the young lady was also part of your,
Ellen was our Rock Creek coordinator.
Yes.
Ellen is off to bigger and better things out in
Oh,
New
okay.
Hampshire, I believe it is, going to grad school. So we're in the process of employing the new Rock Creek coordinator and getting that grant back in place. So
okay,
I appreciate this opportunity to be here and talk a little bit about water quality this morning. I'm representing the Mitchell Soil and Water Conservation District, but this is, and has been a joint project certainly with the Mitchell County Conservation Board. The Soil District has kind of taken the lead because we've had staff and vehicle and so forth that worked into that. And if we don't have staff, such as we've been on again, off again, we have a couple volunteers, including myself, and a couple of the other commissioners that will see that these water samples get taken and follow through the project. If that falls through, Adam has always agreed that there's staff there if we need to share that responsibility. So it's very much, even though I'm here representing the Soil District, it's still very much a joint effort with the County Conservation Board also. We just finished up 16 years of gathering data on a lot of our streams in Mitchell County. Some of you weren't on board yet, but you may be well aware of it. Probably about 3 years ago, we started out with about 12 sites. We expanded to 17 sites, and about 3 years ago, we expanded to 23 sites. So now we're covering all the watersheds. We're covering Cedar, the Little Cedar, and the Loxie watersheds, and a lot of the tributaries that are coming into those streams also. Our initial goal was to basically establish a database and a baseline data for what we're looking at for water, water quality conditions. Primarily, we started with Cedar River. As you'll see, the second page, and that's the poor picture, has been photocopied so many times it gets kind of washed out. I apologize for that. My little printer, I think, was also running out of ink yesterday when I started this, and I about panicked, but I managed to get through it. That shows you the 23 sites that we're doing now. We do these, well, I'll flip through the sheets here, so I don't get ahead of myself. Give you a little history of the program. We started in 2006 as a three partner. We had DNR also partnering on the project when we first started, kind of as a result of our fisheries biologist that filed within DNR, and was particularly interested in developing new databases from a fisheries and natural resource standpoint. So DNR came in from 2006 until 2014. They provided the money for the actual sample analysis, the analyses that have to get sent to the laboratory, the state hygienic lab. DNR changing priorities, changing personnel, budget cuts, one thing after another. They had to pull out funding and personnel in 2014. As a stopgap, we came to the Board of Supervisors at that time. We wanted to continue. We felt it was really worthwhile. Board of Supervisors stepped in 2015, provided funding. We were able to get a grant in 2016. And then from 2017 to 2021, the Board of Supervisors has seen the value in continuing this work and put forth the funding. And that's basically what I'm here for this morning, is to ask you to continue that funding. So I'll give you some additional information, show you what we're gathering. The Mitchell Soil District provides staff, vehicles, we maintain the database and write an annual report, which hopefully I didn't follow through on, and I apologize. Hopefully you all saw the annual report we put together last year. I didn't give it to you in person, but asked Alan to distribute it, so I don't know if you saw that or not. If you didn't, there'll be a new one coming out here in the next couple of months, so I'll make sure that each one of you gets that. It's fairly detailed. Basically, I'll just share with you if you've got questions after you get it. Give me a personal call, invite me in or whatever. It can get kind of complicated, I guess, so to speak. So it doesn't really provide a lot if I stand here and talk here for an hour about it. I'll try and get it to you and ask questions. The information that we gather at each one of these 23 sites, it takes 2 days to sample all these, to gather the water samples, get them sent into the hygienic lab. We actually have to go to each site, collect the water sample from that site. We usually go to bridges or culverts as close to where that stream enters either the Wapsie or where that stream enters the Little Cedar, or where it enters the Big Cedar. And then on the main streams, we're at the county line or the state line on these major streams. So we're not walking on private property to get these sample sites. We're gathering them all from public access. If we had the time and resources, we might choose to sample some different areas, but it's just not feasible. We feel that for the purposes of what we're gathering, where we're gathering the samples is adequate. So we test for E. coli, total E. coli, total phosphorus, nitrate. Those are the three that have to be gathered in separate bottles that get sent off to the state hygienic lab. That's where the majority of our costs enter into, is gathering those three when we have to ship those off. When the staff person is there, we also have a pH meter. We gather the pH. We gather the dissolved oxygen, the water temperature, and the transparency at each of those sites. So some of our sites, we have 16 years worth of data on those sites. I'll share with you what that looks like in a minute. Other sites, as we got started 3 years ago, I believe it was, we may only have 3 years worth of data on some of the things in the Little Cedar and over on the Wapsie. So we've got a span of data pretty extensive on some of our streams. We have others we're just starting to develop that database. Some of the benefits, they're far-reaching, but when you look at some of the monetary benefits, we've brought well over $2 million to particularly the Soil and Water Conservation District. That's where most of the state money funnels through. Not very much of anything would funnel through directly to the County Conservation Board. When we talk about funding, there's additional funding resources that are going to flow through the Soil and Water District for staff. That would cover our doctor coordinator position. It covers additional cost share money for practices, cover crops, nutrient management,
some key funding to the Rock Creek area because we had, at that time, about 9 years' worth of data that DNR was interested in, Department of Ag was interested in, because we had that data there. We applied for the grant, and they said, oh, yeah, you've got, we got a targeted area, you got data there. So we're well in excess of $2 million, probably $2.5 million now, that is flowing and will continue to flow because of the work that we're doing with, with these databases that we can look at. The next page will show you a little bit about what the data looks like. And this is the site, Cedar River at the state line. And you'll notice this is nitrate. And we're seeing this is a trend line. Basically, each it's April through October is what we attempt to sample. And there's a lot of data here. I'm not going to tend to get too deep into it. But each of these little diamonds represents a sample quantity. The vertical over on the left side is milligrams per liter of nitrates. Across the bottom is the month and the year from 2006 through 21. They're kind of coded here across the bottom so you can't see the exact year because it takes, my program won't allow me to put the years in there and squeeze this down enough without using numbers. The thing I would point out, you'll see that really high spike right in the middle of that graph. If you think back, 2012, we had an exceptionally dry year. 23, 24 inches of total precipitation. When I talk about precipitation, that's the whole year precipitation. 2012 was extremely dry. 2013 was another story. Anybody that has farmland or associated with farming, you're going to remember 2013, I believe we had 50,000 acres in the county that planted that spring. We had 44 inches, I think, 45 inches, something like that. So what we see there, we pick up that exact thing when it comes to nitrate in water. Nitrogen is basically married to water. I mean, you just can't get away from that fact without some way of interrupting that connection. Cover crops do it, saturated buffers do it, buffers do it. We have some practices out there that gain that separation. But without those practices, nitrate is going to move with water. I mean, it's just a biological, physical fact. So this really picks up the fact that in 2012, we were basically storing nitrogen reserve in soils that wasn't being used that year. 2013 hits. That is the April figure for 2013, and the nitrate in the Cedar River was, I think that equates to 23 parts per million, milligrams per liter. We want to be down below 10 parts per million. We'd like to be down around 5 for up here. We're kind of at the upper extremes of these watersheds. So this just kind of shows you, and then if you look over to the right-hand side, you'll see it's kind of tailing down, and we do have a downward slope. Our trend line is sloping downward slowly, which is what we want. That's what we're after. But if you look at the last inch and a half of that, if you think what's happened the last 2 years, we've been in fairly dry conditions the last couple of years. We're below average on our rainfall last couple, so naturally nitrate's going to go down. But it was trending down even before that at a lower rate. So that's what we want to see. And this is kind of data that we're able to get by having this long range data. If you look at the next one, I can get my page turned here. This is the Cedar River orchard. Now, if you overlay those two, they're almost identical. Okay, you're seeing that same spike there in the middle, you're seeing that tail down on the right-hand side. But we're also seeing that downward slope. And we're not, the good part about it is if we have a concentration at the state line, our median concentration, 7.5. Our median concentration at Orchard Bridge, 7.6. So we got a lot more water because of additional water coming into the watershed. But our concentration is staying, about the same. So we're not going up in that concentration, which is also a good thing. I mean, it should be a lot lower than that. We'd like to see a lot lower than that. I think we can get it lower than that. But this is what our data is starting to tell us. If you look at the next page, I'll just share with you, this is Rock Creek. The last I was able to verify, we were up around, I think about 15 to 18% of the cropland, low crop acres in Rock Creek watershed, we could verify were under cover crop, some type of cover crop. And probably even more than that, because some people are doing it and it's not necessarily coming through the soil district office. So we got 10 to 15%, plus we've got 11 bio reactors in. When tile lines come to piles of wood chips and buried wood chips, we got 11 of those installed at the end of the tile lines. We got one more wetland. We got at least 2 or 3 saturated buffers, which are basically tile lines allowed to fill with water right before they go into the stream. So that water sits there. It takes anything we can do to slow water down. That's what we're after. Anything you can do to slow that water down and give that nitrate a chance to change form. Some of the gas is off and so forth. So we got a lot of practice. So again, we're seeing that downward trend. You can see there's a downward trend there also, and this is at P38, right before it goes into the Cedar River. So that's a good thing. Again, keep in mind, we got 2 years there right tail end, but we were seeing that slope come down. But you also see that 2013 right in the middle, that exact same spike there. So every time we deal with extreme rainfall events, right before that crop is looking for a lot of nitrogen. July, August, I think, Mark, I don't know, you probably know, August is probably when our crop is really, late July, August, our crop is really looking for that nitrogen. Otherwise, it's sitting there. We get a 8-inch rain in the middle of June, this is what you're gonna see, so those are the kind of spikes. So we need to try and bring those spikes down. That's the only way we're gonna reduce that nitrogen. The next page is phosphate on Deer Creek. Unfortunately, you'll see that this one is obviously a slight increase in phosphate. That's what we're seeing over time in phosphate on Deer Creek. Each of those spikes, phosphate is totally different than nitrate. Phosphate has got to associate itself with soil particles, organic. It's coming there typically as a result of erosion. So these rainfall events are going to tie to some erosive event. We have areas where we have a lot of cattle on pasture. Could be, we got eroding stream banks. We get extreme rainfall events. Some of the bank erosion is going to come in along with that. This is tied more to erosion events, and it's all rainfall associated, but it's a little bit different than nitrogen. That's why you see a lot of spikes across it. The troubling thing is we have probably 7 or 8 spots where we are seeing phosphate. It's still, the median here is 0.07. We want to keep it below 0.1. 0.1 is where you start to get eutrophication, where you get algae blooms. We've got enough fertilizer in the water. Water warms up, you get algae blooms. Algae grows like crazy, dies, and you get a lot of death. It takes oxygen, so you get oxygen depletion. We are seeing some oxygen depletion in Deer Creek. You go sample the water at 9 o'clock, at about noon, and you get a dissolved oxygen of anywhere from 10 to 12 parts per milligrams per liter of dissolved oxygen, which is fine. You go sample it at 6 o'clock in the morning, you might get 2 parts. It's critical we keep that dissolved oxygen at least 5 parts per million for all the aquatic organisms. Now, for short periods of time, they'll tolerate it. Over long periods of time, and as this trend continues, and that continues to get, all that algae in there basically is photosynthesized and creating a lot of oxygen. So the oxygen level goes up during the day, sun goes down, photosynthesis stops, but all the algae and stuff that's in there, some of it actually starts to die and decompose. So then that takes oxygen out of the system. So you get these ups and down roller coasters where you've got too much nutrient in the water. And unfortunately, we're seeing a little bit of that in Deer Creek where we picked that up. So it's something we want to continue to really take a look at, and you can get some more samples during different times of the day to see why that is, because the water quality there isn't a lot different than a lot of our other streams. It's the only place we're picking up this really sag of oxygen early in the morning. Other places it's not doing that, so it's one of those things we would like to continue to take a look at. Wapsie, one of the other things we sampled is E. coli. E. coli in and of themselves are not harmful, although there are a couple of strains of E. coli bacteria, gut bacteria. We all have them. Livestock has E. coli. It's in all warm-blooded animals. There's a couple of strains that are quite harmful, but most of the E. coli is not harmful. What it is an indicator that we're getting a source of manure, basically, in our stream. Now, that can be coming from a big concentration of beaver that are living in the area. Perhaps you're going to pick up some of that. It can be coming from runoff. If there's just recently been manure applied to the landscape, we get a big rain, you're going to get some of that. It can be coming from a tile line or a septic tank that's tiled into a tile. We still have some of them. It can be coming from a septic tank that's outletting too close to the stream. So we're finding some extreme E. coli levels in the Wapsie, the upper part of the Wapsie. Again, don't know exactly where it's coming from. There's no cattle right there. There's no, there's no pasture open right there. So it's when you start seeing what we're looking at there at the last year, two things come together. We had very low water flow, so the water is going to heat up pretty fast. There's not a lot of water flushing it through, so the bacteria that are there have an opportunity to really take off and grow once they get in that warm water. But what that tells me is there's a constant source of contamination there because the levels are staying high. They're not getting flushed out because the flow of water was low. But there's a constant source that's coming from somewhere because it's not all runoff. So those are things we need to key in on, take a look at, see if we can do anything about. So with that, I'm running over the time now, sorry.
Take your time.
Our costs are $48.50 for each site that we sample. It takes us $60 a month to ship UPS. We gotta get those there overnight. So the bottom line is we're looking for requests, which is the same as it's been since we've been requesting this. Cost has gone up a little bit, but we can absorb some of that. So we're requesting $8,200 in fiscal 2023, I guess you consider. I guess that's what you call it, for support to continue to do this. So thank you for your time, and I've taken way too much time. So
No,
if there's
go
any
ahead.
questions, let me know.
This isn't a big meeting, so you can take your time.
I didn't pick something up.
You were down for 9 o'clock, and I didn't want you to have to do your speech before you had your people here.
If there's any questions or anything, I can answer them now. If maybe.
I just see there was a spike there on that E. coli and the Wapsie, that one was way up. Do you have a reason for that, do you think, or,
Well,
or don't know?
bacteria is usually
Like a dry time and
event
that?
related. In other words, if there's a constant source, there's cattle on the
Yep.
stream. We have several places we've discovered where there's cattle on the stream. And not condemning anybody, but I mean, the sheer fact is when you're grazing pastures on streams, you're gonna have a big impact on E. coli because they're gonna be eroding the banks, they're gonna be in the water. That particular one, I don't know.
This is up at the state line too, correct? Is
That's
that-
on the state line. There's not a big flow there.
No, there's not a big flow there.
No.
There's, on the Minnesota side, there's pretty much all cropland. When you hit the Iowa side, we get a nice buffer, trees and
Yep.
everything else along there. On the Minnesota side, I suspect it's all tile, could be related to manure application.
Okay, yeah. Could be timing on that, I would
There's
say.
a home there, that's fairly new home, so I would hope on the Minnesota side that
There you
they're
go.
not allowing anything goofy with septic tanks, because it's fairly new home, so I can't believe it's that. I have to believe it's probably related to manure applications upstream of the tile, because we're fairly close to a big tile impact right there at that location. I mean, we don't have our deep springs there, and so most of that water is coming from tile right there at the state line.
Yeah, there's
So-
there's a couple of big cattle setups a mile into.
Good, yeah, and there again, we just started looking over there, so we haven't had time to really research
Yeah.
where some of that, where some of that impacting us. What we're finding in Mitchell County is, finding a lot more cattle on pasture that I really wasn't aware of, that we might be able to work with some of those producers to cost share, fencing that might, or paddock type grazing. We don't know what the possibilities are, but we're finding a lot more that are impacting, well, when you're getting organic material, whatever in the stream, or any quantity, you're increasing nitrate and increasing phosphate right along with it.
Yeah.
So, and those are big challenges as far as the cattle producers are concerned, to try and manage those pastures. Maybe there's something we can do, there's cost share there, but it's gonna take a one-on-one type thing, and that's where we need our person back in that office to start being able to work one-on-one with landowners to address some of those concerns. And there's possibilities there, so it takes time, takes resources. And again, I wanna say thanks to, past boards of supervisors and all of you for the support you've given the conservation and stewardship of our natural resources here in Mitchell County. It's greatly appreciated, and a lot of people comment to me on it, so we appreciate it, and thanks.
Okay, thank you, Milt.
No, I have a question on that, Rock Creek, watershed you had talked about, slowing down that water and you get like pools of water before it empties out. Do you guys keep an eye on, if water slows down, then there starts to be this sediment and stuff that filters down? Do you keep an eye on would they ever need cleaned out or anything, or is the water moving enough to?
Oh,
keep
in the stream itself?
Yeah.
Well, our goal is to interrupt that soil before it gets to the stream. Once it's there, Rock Creek, well, and Turtle Creek also, but Rock Creek's a fairly flat, fast flowing stream. There are some places where we do get settling. They're natural pools in elevation. We did take out two, they're not really low head dams, but they were crossings that were obstructing water that would have slowed it down. So the more you keep that water flowing, the less siltation you're gonna get on some of those areas. But siltation's a natural process on those pools, that you'll get rocks and ripples, and above those you'll get some slower pools where you're gonna get sedimentation. And hopefully the next flood comes along, scours that out again, where we have natural flow versus dams, quite frankly. So, there hasn't been any attempt, I don't know if I'm answering your question, there hasn't been any attempt to go in and clean any of those areas, because it's kind of a lost cause, because bank erosion and just natural erosion, you're gonna get siltation in those areas. But as long as we keep the natural flow going, it tends to clean itself over time, because, our objective is, and we've had really good participation from landowners in Rock Creek, because we've had a staff person there that they will work, one-on-one, develop those relationships, rather than waiting for you to come into the office and say, hey, I want to do something. We've got a person that can be proactive, but it's just a challenge, because the state has designed it as a part-time, no benefits job. So you get the person here, just like Ellen, just like Tracy Church worked in that position for 3 years. Funding theoretically runs out. We don't know if we're gonna get funding again. They're off looking for another job, quite frankly, because they can't sit there and wait. So it's just this constant turnover. But, so one of these days, I might be back with a different proposal, I'm not sure, but heads up on that. But when we've shown that when we can keep a person there and do this one-on-one work, we can develop that to expect, and somebody that can help walk them through the steps a little bit of cost share, because if you ever work with the federal end of things with the FSA and soil water out there, it can be daunting, you know, so a lot of people just throw up their hands and say, and forget it. But if we've got that relationship, we get some good things done, that's what we've done in Rock Creek family, so, we're good. Thanks, if you ever got a question, most of you probably can find me, so I'll get you that report, if you got questions, just let me know. But again, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Milt. We'll throw everything into the pot and stir it around, and hopefully we can pour out your amount.
Well, I appreciate it, so y'all have a good holidays.
Thank you too, Milt,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Moving on down, number 9, approve voting precinct agreement with Osage. And I've done a little reading on that, and I didn't really think I wanted to read all that.
No, so, short version, after the census, they had to have a public hearing, the city of Osage, for their wards. You guys will also be having a public hearing for the precincts. But before you have those public hearings, if you share a precinct, like, inside the city in a township, you need to have an agreement with the city, and that's all this is. So currently, District 1, like Todd's district, it goes down by Lancer, Jim's goes down by Lancer. On the east side, they go and vote at Our Saviors, the west side votes at the courthouse here. And so because we're in the city, we're just approving that. City and townships will vote in one location.
Okay. So, basically, we need to have motions to approve this agreement.
I'll move to approve the agreement between the rural township and the city precincts.
Mike has made a motion. Mark has seconded it. Any further discussion?
Roll call, Todd.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye?
Mike.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
All right. We have approved the voting precinct agreement that is with the city of Osage. Moving on, items of note. Meetings attended.
We had Midwest Engineering came last week, and Mike and myself and Dave Harton were part of that. They went over the preliminary plans as far as starting to get things figured out. And briefly, when this thing gets bid, they're gonna bid it with 3 alternates. One is the possibility of adding a humidifier to the system, and he highly recommends that because more humid air is better for people than dry air is, and that also is kind of how we're paying for this thing, is air quality. So that's going to be one of the alternates. Another one is what's called a dry cooler, and what that does is air conditioned summer at night. There'll be a unit that sits outside that sheds air in order to keep up with the system. That's when in real hot weather. And then as far as the control system, there's things that run the thermostats and turn the pumps on and off and cycle the water and everything. Gonna bid it with 3 different types of control systems to try to keep things more cost benefit. That way the contractor can select one of those 3 systems. So those are alternates. Talked with you in the past about a electric boiler. He decided that wasn't going to be feasible, and so what it's going to do is there's going to be one large boiler that will serve the needs of the jail when the geothermal system can't do it, and then there'll be a second gas boiler, but it's going to be a lot smaller. It can sit on the wall, and that would be used when we need to maintain 50 degrees in the system. Adjust some ductwork to meet the code. All phases of the work, we're going to have this confirmed with the sheriff prior to start so that things are not going to be inconvenienced for what he's got going on. So what he's hoping to do is, how did I write this?
I think they, didn't he say something about February 9th, having bids by?
He said that January 4th, he's going to come to our meeting and go over the finals with us. And then, as Mike said, February, it would be, the bids would be opened. There's a deadline when they have to be here and then when they can be opened. So he wants to have them out for bid the first or second week of January, so that's why he's targeting that January 4th meeting with us so that we can say, yes, we like the plan, or no.
Okay. That'll work then, Rachel. We're gonna have a
Yeah,
long,
I'm waiting for
we're
it.
gonna have a long meeting on January 4th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
This needs to move along too, yes.
yeah, yep. That's it.
That's it.
All right. Okay.
I was at that meeting with Jim, and then I had a conservation board meeting, and, they put the Crannel Dam out for bids. They got one bid of $504,288 from Pops, and I guess they're gonna go with it. And, you know, their mountain goats were there. What's that?
On the bid, is that just for removal of the dam, or is that also putting the structures in?
Putting the structures into, the removal of the dam and putting the structures in to slow the water. What they're gonna do, they're gonna use the dam material if they can, unless it's full of re-rod, then they can't, or there might be a wood shell underneath there, they're not sure until they tear into it. They can only lower the water level a foot a day, so that would be enough. So they're gonna have to, and they plan on starting on it immediately, I guess, like now.
Really?
Maybe they already
Okay.
have, I don't know, but they approved it, so. So that's gonna be happening, so. And, I don't know, the mountain goats were there, wanted a donation for a groomer to groom their, it's a fat bike tire people. They must groom the trails in the snow, and then they ride on them, so they're gonna go ahead with that too, I guess. And the Huffman house that they acquired with that property by Otrano, I guess the renter wants to either buy the house or wants new flooring put in, and they don't wanna sell the house. So they're looking at, I'll be putting new flooring in, carpet, and vinyl, whatever, so. That's the gist of it, most of it, so.
Okay, that's your meetings.
Yep.
then. I didn't have any meetings, my meeting was canceled.
I didn't have anything, but I thought we'd bring up, couple, or a month ago or so, we made a motion for sick leave. If they're gone for more than 3 days, they need a doctor's excuse. And there's 2 employees that are on the borderline of abusing the system, and we never had anything about disciplinary action if they don't bring their slip in, so maybe we'll have to think about something to do there.
Did their department head, is their department head, did their department head tell them they need to do that, or how did that, what happened?
No. Department head didn't do anything. So we don't have nothing in the handbook on disciplinary action for employees either, so. Sometime we'll have to think up something for that. Otherwise so they're gone 3 days, then bring an excuse in, oh well.
I just wanted to add that most places, when they have like an employee handbook like that, they look through it once a year, make changes as needed, you know, and then sign off on it that it was updated or whatever. I mean, that's something that I know a lot of businesses do, so
Yeah.
maybe that's something we maybe need to look at, you know?
It's been updated, what, a year ago, was it?
2018 or beginning of 2019.
So maybe it's time to,
Probably time to,
To take a lawyer to do that, to review that, or the person that put it together, or how's?
It probably depends on what type of changes.
That
you
would
want
have
to
been
do.
Renee, wouldn't it? And that's,
And so we've added a couple things this last year where we were able to do it without her amending, I guess you could say. But I'd say if you're probably looking at big changes, you're gonna probably want to review it. When you guys send it to the county attorney and ask his opinion.
yeah.
But
this may be something that we want Renee to look at.
Possibly, I'm not sure how much it costs.
I think that might be our best. She would have the knowledge of what other employers do or have in their handbooks, would give us some advice anyways as to how we want to go. There may be options.
I know where my previous employer that we had to have a note from the doctor after 3 days, and if
Yeah.
you didn't bring it, you about faced and went right back out the door. You didn't go back to work and you don't get paid. I mean, I think you're right, we need to, but I think it should be self-explanatory that if it's in our handbook that after being sick for 3 days, you need a doctor's excuse to return to work, that's the way it works. And if you don't, you just,
Well, the doctor's excuse in 3 days, normally you're just sick, you're not needing a written to come back. The 3 days you've been off is more or less of an explanation of why you were off.
but didn't we put in there that after 3 days of being gone?
On the third day, you need to bring in a doctor's note.
Yeah.
It's
But
gonna
how
be
do you word after that?
You don't, you put a period, and when you're gone 3 days, you go to the doctor or get the doctor release you to come back to work. I mean, you don't come to work and go to work with, it's in the book, after 3 days of sickness, you have a doctor's excuse to return to work.
It's pretty
Isn't
common
that-
practice, I think, in most places, yes.
It's just gonna be a few people that are gonna ruin it for everybody, and that's the way it goes usually.
And I'll reach out to Donnelly and see actually I mean, it's been a while since I've never abused it. I needed my job. I needed to get paid.
Yeah.
So I'll reach out to them and see what the handbook actually does say.
I guess I probably am missing something, and maybe it's just because it's so obvious, but we developed that, and that's what it's supposed to be, and to me, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is, it's not happening, and so now we gotta add something as far as this is what happens if you don't do it, or,
Yeah, apparently.
But I think you want to word it correctly, or I still think maybe this would be something that,
I can contact Renee, and then do you want, how about you guys review the handbook if there's anything else? And maybe January 18th or 25th, we can put it on the agenda to discuss more. That gives time to, I don't know, look through it if there's anything
Yeah.
else that wants to be added.
yeah.
I think that'd
And
be good.
maybe I can send an email to department heads and see if there's anything. I know there's kind of a lot of people involved last time it was updated. Their thoughts on anything,
Yeah,
questions.
or if they want
problems.
something added.
Correct.
yes.
Yeah,
Or deleted, you know.
right.
it just
I think
seems
that-
odd that you just want to do that. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't quite get that,
No.
but.
There's no consequences if you don't, so, you know.
That's the thing, there is no consequences. Theoretically, there was, but I guess no one ever pushed the buttons before.
Now, the department head should push the buttons, you know, I mean, it's their department.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay.
I had a FMC DCAT meeting. So we had some money that wasn't spent, so we took that and we're putting it back out for bid for any other, I don't know, department category, however you want to say that. See if we can't get that, somebody to bid on that and issue that to some other category.
You're trying to use that money up.
Yeah, the first 6 months, they have not hardly touched it. which is fine, and it's a category it's in, you can do that, you
Yep.
can,
Move it.
yeah. So hopefully maybe in January, we have somebody out there that is in need of it, so.
What you're saying is you're trying to use that money up before the year, the July. You're trying to use the money up so it doesn't go back to the state.
Correct.
That's-
And it will go back to the state if we don't use it, so. And then, this isn't really a meeting of mine, but Rachel and I went, we've been working on with Kelly Molitor and Thomas Meyer on the 7th graders, and then eventually probably the 10th graders, redesigning our courthouse website. And last Friday, we went to the school, and there's 3 different classes of 7th graders, and we met with each one, and they showed us what they're working on and their ideas, and it's pretty good, wasn't it? They're they're way
Pretty
above this.
impressive for 7th graders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and what Kelly and Thomas told us was, this is, aside from redesigning our website, these kids anywhere from 1 to, well, we had maybe 3 and 4, but they're bringing this stuff to outside people and talking, not to their teachers, so, and most of them did really well for 7th graders to describe what they were doing and how they were doing, and so it's pretty interesting. And then we'll visit probably in January, and hopefully we can start putting it together then. So it's pretty fun. And that's all I had.
Moving on, manure management plan updates.
I have one for Pete Tomey, 4202 Hickory Avenue, Sinyansker.
All right, well, we're down to public comments. And Charlie doesn't have anything to say. Is there anybody out there that would like to say anything for public comment? Hearing none. With nothing else to discuss, do we have any motions to adjourn?
I'll move.
Todd has moved to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mike has seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
The meeting